Hi there everybody, and welcome to the LearnTech e-learning studio. I'd like to thank you for joining us as we present our Phoenix learner management system. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to log in as a learner and showcase some of the learner functionalities and the capabilities of the system and what your learner experience could potentially be, keeping in mind that the system is very modular and we will help you to set it up based on consultation with you. So I've tried to pack as much functionality as possible into this demo without making it longer than an hour, for example, to try and showcase some of the bells and whistles. But obviously, different clients use the system differently depending on their certain requirements. So I'm going to log in as a learner. We'll go through the learner experience, show you sort of how a typical course interface may potentially work. Then what I'll do is I'll log out and log in as a super administrator. That's someone who can see and do everything within the system, and we'll show some of the facilitator functionalities as well as the super admin functionalities in the back end of the system. Now, in terms of roles, the system can accommodate, obviously, learners, super administrators who can see and do everything within the system, but we have lots of different roles from instructor to facilitator. We can create custom admin profiles as well. So for example, if we had a line manager that needed to have access to a very specific group of individuals in your organization and have access to a specific set of courses and cherry pick functionality, such as, we want them to maybe view a report rather than be able to download a report or generate a report, for example, you can really create very detailed and customized admin profiles. But obviously, for the sake of today, we're going to look at a learner and a super admin who can do everything. So without further ado, let's hop into Phoenix Learner Management System. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to log in as a learner. So I'm going to enter my unique username and password, click the login button. And here we'll be taken then to my homepage within the learner management system. So we can see here that I have been registered on a single course by an administrator, which is my sales induction course. That's the only course that's been registered to me, and it's sitting here waiting for me. We can also see that this is a new course. If I have a look at the little star icon here, if I have a look at the top, we can see that this is a new course, meaning that I've been registered or I've subscribed to this course, but I haven't even opened it yet. The moment I open it and I start interacting with the course, my status will change to in progress. And of course, once I've finished it by passing the assessment or completing all of the modules within the course, I will then also, my status will be changed to completed. At a later stage, as my career in the company grows, I will be able to toggle between courses that are new that I haven't started yet, courses that I'm busy with and I haven't completed yet, and courses that I have completed. Additionally, we have access to a course catalog. One of the cool things about Phoenix Learner Management System is that we pre-install it with over 55 off-the-shelf e-learning courses that are ready-made, and you can use them as much as you like. We have some clients who, because these courses are free and part of the subscription, that make them available to all learners in a course catalog. So that means anybody can browse and register themselves to a course. So for example, let's say, let's see what I've got here. Let's say I'm doing a presentation today. I'm doing a demo online and I'm feeling a little nervous about it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to register myself to the public speaking course here. And immediately I can access the course because it's free. So I can enter it directly from here. Or if I go back to my homepage, we'll now see that I've got two courses. One that an administrator has registered or registered me on. And then I've got another course that I've subscribed myself. Now, you can decide what you want to do with that course catalog. Some clients have it there available for free. Other clients may want to be more prescriptive, meaning that you'll only do courses as and when management sees fit. It's completely up to you, and we'll help you set up the system however you want to. In terms of registering or self-registration to course, you saw that course that we did now was completely free, meaning I can enter it straight away. But you can also set rules on that. So you can say, look, I want to have a system administrator approve that request when someone wants to do a course. We could say that a learner can only register to a course between a specific period, or we can have courses that you can only do if you've been registered on that course by an administrator or a facilitator. Other functionalities here is I've got my profile, and here's where I can update my personal information. I can upload a photograph of myself, which comes in handy for the forums, and I can also view any certificates that I've achieved throughout my career as well. Now what I want to do is I want to go into the course interface. So we've been put on the sales induction course. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that, and I'll talk a little bit about how we've set up this particular course interface. And when I talk about a course interface, I mean the functionality within a particular course shell. So this course in question is the sales induction demo course. And we can have a look at this course interface is made up of a couple of different areas. So we've got my eLearning, and this is where all of our eLearning modules and online learning objects would sit. And we can see inside this particular course, we've got a sales induction course that is an eLearning module. This is a SCORM compliant eLearning module. We can see that I've got a takeaway manual, which is a little document that I can download once I've completed the eLearning course and save to my computer and refer to it later. And we've also got a final assessment. But we can see that these two learning objects are currently locked. That means we've got prerequisites on this course. So a prerequisite allows you to structure your course and control the sequence in which content is consumed. So for example, if we had 10 e-learning modules that we wanted your learner to complete, you can lock that course up so that module 2 can only be completed once you've finished module 1, module 3 once you finish module 2, and so on as you're going along the system. Okay, let's have a look at the rest of the functionality before I open up all of the learning objects. Next up, I've got my live learning. And this is an area where you can partake in video classrooms as well. So if you wanted to run virtual ILT sessions, or you were looking at doing maybe virtual blended e-learning where we have a portion that is e-learning and self-paced, and another portion, maybe a touchdown session with a facilitator where you can ask questions, you could have them all in the same course interface. We can see right now there are no rooms available. So there are no live learning sessions at the moment, but when we log in as an administrator, I'll show you how we set that up for our learners. I've also got access to what's called the coffee shop, which is an in-course forum. That means learners who are registered onto the sales induction course, this is an area where they can go and communicate, they can ask questions, they can help each other, and they can speak to their facilitator if we have a facilitator manning this particular course. So this becomes an in-course forum, which works like any other online forum, specifically for learners on this particular course. So if we open up the coffee shop, we can see that we have a list of all discussions. We can create a discussion. We can follow a particular forum so that we get automatic updates whenever a new thread or whenever there's a reply, for example, and we can either start a new discussion or join an existing discussion. I've also got my reports. This is an area where we can view all of our assessments and activities, and we can see our scores essentially, if they're allowed to see their scores. So we can see for this particular course, we only have one final assessment. We haven't attempted yet, so we have no score. I do need to get a minimum of 50 points. We haven't got any completion status yet because we haven't attempted it. So, and also at the top here, we've also got a little area where I can see my completion status for this particular course. So how long for this particular session, or the most recent session that I'm on, how much total time have I spent on this course forever, how many other users are online. This is a demo system, so it's just little old me. How many learning objects, how many I've completed, and how many I have I've yet to complete. All right, so let's jump back to the learning objects and I'll show you how an e-learning course will open up. So what I did was I created a very, very quick little SCORM file in Articulate Storyline and uploaded that. So we just show you how an e-learning course would open up within the learner management system. What we want to happen is once the SCORM file sends the learner management system a completion status, so that would either be from viewing all of the slides or watching a video until it's completed or passing a little formative assessment at the end. That will then tell the learner management system that this learning object has been completed. We'll get a little green tick indicating that that's completed, and our next learning object should unlock and allow us to complete it. So let's quickly open up this e-learning course. I did tell you that was quick. Okay, so our e-learning course has been completed. It was just a quick video, and we can see we've got our green tick indicating a completion status for that course, and our takeaway manual is now ready to download. So if I click on that, we can see our manual is ready to download. I can save that to my laptop for future reference, for example. And we can now see that I've got 2 green ticks indicating that these 2 learning objects have been completed. I now have a final assessment that I must complete. If we have a look at the top here, we can also see that I'm now 66.67% completed with this particular e-learning course. So let's fire up the final assessment, and we'll start off with a description of what the assessment is about, as well as the rules for this particular assessment. So in this test, we've got a maximum score of 100. I've got 3 questions. I've got a pass mark of 50. I have to complete this in a single sitting. So as soon as I start this assessment, I've got to finish it. I can't, go do something else and come back to it later. I am allowed to edit my answers. I will see my final score on completion, and I have 1 hour to complete it. Now, all of these rules are configurable on a course-by-course basis. So depending on if you have a formative assessment or a summative assessment, you can decide what the rules are for your particular assessment. And I'll go through some of those functionalities when I do the facilitator training. So let's begin the assessment. So I'm going to click on the begin button. First up, we've got a true-false. We can see our time is going. So we've got 59 minutes and 55 seconds to do 3 questions. So the pressure's on. We keep these nice and challenging. So the first one is a true and false. The answer is true. I'm pretty sure it's the first one. We have a multiple choice question here. Is more than one correct answer? We've got a matching columns type question. And I'm going to get this one wrong on purpose. Actually, no, let me get this right, because we do want to get full marks for this one. Excellent. So now I will submit my assessment. 100 out of 100. Fantastic. I have now completed my e-learning course. Now, you'll notice that the assessment is green and it's now locked. So how I set this particular assessment up is that if you pass the assessment, so you noticed in the beginning we had 3 attempts, but I've set it so that if you pass the assessment, it must lock because you've passed the assessment and you get your certificate. And this allows learners to now come back, and if they want to go through the course material again, or they've lost their download document and they want to download that again, they can always come back to this course, which is now sitting in the completed tab on their homepage, and they can review the content or go through the material again without having to do the assessment again. We don't want to be in a situation now that you've passed the assessment and then you accidentally open it a second time and you get confused and you fail it, because then it's going to show your most recent attempt was a fail. Now, we can generate reports to see that yes, you had previously passed it, but let's just avoid all of that sort of confusion and set it all up. Had I failed this assessment, I would still have another 2 attempts at it. But of course, all of this is configurable on a course-by-course basis. We will help you to set up the system initially, and we'll give you training and ongoing support to help you manage your Phoenix Learner Management System on a day-to-day basis. Now, you may notice in the top right-hand corner of my screen, I've got a little bell icon that's telling me I've got a notification. And if I mouse over it, it tells me that I've got a new certificate. So here we can see that the sales induction, because the second I pass the assessment, it's released the certificate for my sales induction. So all I would need to do is I can generate and I can download that certificate. I don't want to generate this particular one now because this is a demo system, and I don't think our guys have created a very pretty certificate template. It might just be a bland PDF at this point in time. But essentially what we would do is we would take your standard certificate template and we would digitize it in the back end. And whenever you create a course, you would link that certificate to the course shell, set what the rules are for the release of that certificate. So it could be certificate of attendance, you completed the course, or you have to pass the assessment by a certain score. You set up the rules for that, and the learner management system will take care of the rest. So the moment the learner completes, it will then take your certificate template and it'll say, right, who is the person who's just completed this assessment, place their name in the relevant place, what's the name of the course, what's the date, all of that information, and generate that. The moment I generate this, any administrators will then be able to go in the back end and they can see how many certificates have been released, and from their end they can also print certificates as well. If I go back to my home page, we can now see that I've got a couple of toggles now. So now I can toggle between new courses, those are courses that I'm on that I haven't started, and courses that I have completed. All right, let's open up one of our off-the-shelf courses. Now, these courses are pre-installed on your Phoenix Learner Management System. We do offer them as a separate service to clients who have their own learner management system, would like to use these courses, but Phoenix clients get it all pre-installed. We have about 55 e-learning titles. They're unaccredited courses covering mostly soft skills, so anything from personal development, management, sales, marketing, human resources, and I think we've got a couple of Microsoft Office packages in there as well, and they're free to use. You can have all of your employees access these courses, and they're there for you to use. And you'll notice when I open up this particular course that my course interface is slightly different. I don't have a forum, there is no virtual classroom, there is none of that functionality is required, because we can customize our course interface, again, on a course-by-course basis. So, for example, if you wanted to set up a course that was only a virtual ILT, you only had a virtual classroom session, for example, and you're not going to have an e-learning portion to it, and you're not going to do the assessment online, it's going to be paper-based and captured in later, then we would create a custom course interface specific for those types of courses. So usually what we do is we'll sit with you, learn, during the consultation phase, learn a bit more about your business and try and translate that into the system. And we'll then create a couple of custom course interface menus, as you will, up front, and then you just decide which one of those, depending on the type of courses that you're running. So you may have some courses that are virtual ILT, other courses that are blended that might need a bit of both, and other courses which are straight up e-learning. What I always say to clients is, if you're creating a course menu and you're not using functionality, it's better to get rid of that menu item completely rather than have it there and have nothing inside there, because we don't want to confuse your learners. All right, so here we can see we've got one of our off-the-shelf courses. So let me I'll just open up one or two slides just so that you can see how it opens up. Okay. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to close this course up quickly. You'll now notice that I've got a little orange tick that indicates that I'm in progress with this particular learning object. So I haven't completed it yet. I've still got quite a lot of content that I need to get through. Now, another thing about being SCORM compliant, obviously, is that SCORM file course will bookmark automatically. So for example, with our off-the-shelf courses, those are typically, if you had to complete them in one sitting, depending on how quickly you go through it, you're looking at about 3 to 4 hours to complete one of these courses. And you wouldn't obviously be expected to complete that in a single sitting. So let's say, in between meetings, I decide I want to try and do a couple of modules today, and then tomorrow when I wake up in the morning, my wife has taken the kids to school and I've got an hour to spare, I might want to go and do another couple of modules. When I log in again tomorrow, it will simply take me to the last page visited and I can carry on from where I left off. Then obviously once I've completed the course and I've finished all of the assessments and I've passed everything, I'll obviously get my little green tick indicating that I've completed the course. I can then do my assessment and I'll get my next certificate for that. If I now jump back to the home page, we will see that I now have courses that are in progress, meaning I've started and I haven't completed them, courses that are completed, and I don't have any new courses that I haven't started yet. So at any point in time, you can toggle between those. You can also view by categories as well. So if we want to look for all courses of onboarding or in personal development, we can filter. We can go to our course catalog and register ourselves to any new courses as well. And obviously, when we're done with our session, we can log out of the learner management system. Now, in terms of the look and feel of the system, of course, we can white label this, so it'll have your logos and your colors. We can customize sort of the course images to suit your business if that is a requirement of yours as well. And in terms of the e-learning courses themselves, other than the off-the-shelf courses that come pre-installed, obviously our system being fully SCORM compliant, you can either purchase an e-learning authoring tool such as Articulate Storyline, or Adobe Captivate, and create e-learning courses in-house. And obviously those are SCORM compliant tools, so your courses will be able to publish and track and play within our learner management system. We also have an e-learning development division, so if you needed assistance with converting any of your internal courses to e-learning, that would be an ad hoc service that we can most certainly assist you with. You're welcome to give us a call and we would give you a one-off quote and you would be able to play those. But being SCORM compliant, that means that you would be able to purchase e-learning courses from anywhere in the world, and you would be able to plug and play their content within your learner management system. So for example, I know there's a company down in Cape Town that specialize in cybersecurity e-learning courses, and that's what they do. That's their core business. We do have a lot of clients who purchase the courses from that company and then obviously run it through their own learner management system at no additional charge to them. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to log in as a super administrator. That's someone who can see and do everything within the system, just to simplify the process. So as a super admin, I'm going to show you some of the facilitator functionalities, how they set up the meat of the course and manage some of the learners, and then we'll jump through to the admin side and we'll have a look at some of the day-to-day management of the system. So when I log in as a super admin, okay, we can see that I've got a pretty similar view, except I'm managing a lot of courses within the system. So I'm registered to a lot of courses in the system here as well. And I have access to the admin area, which other users don't have. So if we have a look at it was the sales induction course, you can see here that the view looks pretty much the same. But because I'm an admin on this course, I have the ability to edit, delete, moderate, or create a forum, for example. In terms of the live learning, I have the ability to create a room, so I can create sessions. So let's say we had a course that was traditionally held over 5 days in the classroom. Learners would actually come in and sit in a classroom and complete a 5-day course. What you could do is then convert that into a blended learning course, where the learners would have to complete a whole load of self-paced e-learning courses, and once they've passed that, they'll then have maybe a half-day touchdown session with the facilitator where they can ask questions or go through some of the more complex issues of that particular course. And what that does is it frees up your L&D department, because now instead of having to continuously run these 5-day training courses, most of that work gets done self-paced online, and then you only have to work for a half-day session, for example. And then there's no more venue fees. You don't have to worry about lunch. You don't have to worry about manuals and all of that sort of stuff. It's all handled online, and it gives you a lot more time to focus on other areas of the business, or perhaps other training interventions that you could utilize to assist the organization as well. And also, because I'm the super admin, I have access to the facilitator area, and this is where we do all of the setup of that particular course. And I'll go through some of those functions now. So first up, we've got Manage Menu. And this is where the facilitator can now customize the functionality of this particular course shell, which is the Sales Induction course. So if I have a look inside of the learning area here, we can see that we've got the My eLearning tab, the My Live Learning tab, we've got the coffee shop, and we've got the report card. Now, you can change the naming conventions of these as well. So if we don't want to call it the coffee shop, we want to call it a course forum, we can do that. If, for example, this is maybe an e-learning course and you're not going to have a facilitator who's available to sort of assist learners, or you don't really want them to interact for some reason, and we didn't want to have an in-course forum at all, we could simply delete it, and that functionality will not be on this particular course shell. If this is a straight-up e-learning course and we're not going to have any live learning or VILT sessions here, we can delete that functionality, and there will be no virtual classrooms on this particular course shell. If we wanted to, for example, maybe do things the opposite way around, where we started off with a live learning session and then moved on to the e-learning portion, we could swap it around so that we've got the live learning first and the e-learning second. You can customize that sort of thing as well. Let's say I want to get rid of the live learning altogether. So what I'll do is I'll just delete. And there we go. And it's totally gone. If I go back to the learner area, we can see there is no live learning functionality anymore in this particular course. If I go back to my learner area, there's additional functionalities here that we can add to the course as well. So for example, we may want to have an announcement area where facilitators can send announcements that get emailed to learners, or a notification board. We could have an in-course calendar. If there's particular dates or assignment deadlines and that sort of stuff, we can keep track of that. We could create a notes area where learners can store and keep notes related to their learning, specific to their profile within the system. We could save that. We could have a reservation module. So if we actually wanted the learners to register for an in-class event on completion of this course, we could set up a reservation module that'll handle that. If we wanted to collect information from the learner, we could set up a repository. If we wanted to have an introduction video that showed learners the functionality within the course interface and what the course is all about, we can set that up. We can have wikis, chats, video conferencing, all of that additional functionality. So as you can see, there's quite a lot of flexibility here in terms of the functionalities that you can make available to your learners, and you can customize that on a course-by-course basis as well. So there's not a one-size-fits-all. Different types of courses have different needs, and you can have different menus for each of those courses. Okay, so that's the menu. Next up, we've got the learning object management, and this is where we manage all of the online learning stuff. So here we have our SCORM file, we have our document, and we have our final assessment. So to add a learning object is pretty straightforward. We click Add Learning Object, and we can decide, do we want to add a frequently asked questions section? Do we want to add a glossary of terms? Do we want to add an HTML page, or do we want to maybe embed a YouTube video or something like that as a learning object? We can upload any file for the learners to download. So in this example, we have a PDF that the learners can download as a take-home manual. That could be anything. It could be a PowerPoint presentation, Excel spreadsheet, manual, document, any of that sort of information. We can curate links that are relevant to this course for the learners as well. So this might be if we're doing compliance training, for example, and we're talking about specific acts. We can actually have links directly to government websites where they can click off and go and view those sites. Or we can have articles that are relevant to the learning that we've completed as additional learning that the learners can go and read up on. We can have all of that. We can create an anonymous survey, and the reason it's anonymous is because we want to try and get honest feedback from the learners. So you could use this in terms of an e-learning course to say, how was your experience of the course? Was there anything that you were struggling with? How would you rate it from 1 to 10? Is there anything you would change? All of that sort of stuff that becomes quite useful information to perfect your course for the next round of learners. Additionally, if you're doing a virtual ILT, you can also rate your instructor and all of that sort of stuff. It's anonymous because we want to get honest answers from the learners. So we can't see who said what, but we can aggregate all of the information gathered, and we can generate important reports from that. I can upload a SCORM file. This is an e-learning course. And we can also create an assessment as well. So those are the learning object types. And let's have a look at the assessment particularly. So here was the assessment that we had in this course. And we can see here are my 3 options. I've got my true, false, multiple choice matching the columns, but we can add single choice, multiple choice, extended text, text entry, inline choice, find the wrong word, upload file, association, type questions to your system, which we can break up by page titles and page breaks as well. And all of these question types will be tracked automatically by the system on completion, with the exception of upload file and text entry. And those are designed more for essay type questions. So if your learners have to create an essay, or you expect them to write an article, for example, and upload that to the system, we can have that question type there to facilitate that, but obviously you would need to have a resource to go into the gradebook of the system and manually assign those scores. Here we set up the rules for the course. So we've got test options. And how do you want this assessment to display to the learners? Do you want all the questions on one page, one after the other, or do you want to have one question per page like we had in this example? In terms of the sequencing, do you want all of the questions to be shown to the learner in the same sequence that you captured it, or do we want to randomize that sequence so everybody has the same amount of questions, but they've got it in a random order? We can also create pools of questions as well. So let's say I've got 200 questions sitting inside of this pool, and I've categorized those as difficult, medium, and easy, for example. I can then say, look, I want you to randomly take 10 pages from the 10 questions from the medium, 10 questions from the difficult, and 5 simple questions, and randomize those up as well. So every learner that accesses this assessment is now going to get, what did we say, 25 questions. Out of that 200 pool, it's going to be a different 25 questions completely, and in a randomized order as well. We can also randomize the answer sequence as well. That'll be a little bit tricky if you're sort of numbering or lettering your answers, for example, because it'll randomize that. So your true false could get randomized as false true, for example. All right, then we want to, let's have a look here. In terms of the learners' ability to edit their questions, you want them to be able to go back and edit their questions before they submit it, yes or no. You have control over that. Do you need this course to be completed in a single setting, or would you like your learners to be able to save and come back to it later? Most assessments or final assessments would need to be completed in a single setting. So the moment you click start, you've got an hour to complete. However, we do have clients, say, for example, in a call center or high pressure environment, where you have people who are busy completing an assessment. Next thing, a customer calls and there's an emergency that they need to sort out, where they want to have the functionality to save, or they're allowed to have the functionality where they can save their assessment, go sort out the client, come back and finish their assessment. Well, the system has that if that's a requirement for you guys. And then in terms of the report that the learner gets, you can decide, do they get a report, yes or no? Do you want to tell them if they passed and what the score was? Do you want them to get a bit of a report to see where they went wrong? If it's a formative assessment, all of that sort of stuff, you can decide what the learner sees once they've submitted the assessment. We can also manage the time. So, for example, this particular course was test-based. That means we had 1 hour to complete the assessment. We could have no time limit at all, or if we're feeling particularly nasty, we can have a time limit per question. So imagine opening up an assessment that's randomized and you've got 60 seconds to answer each question before it automatically moves on. High pressure, but we can do that. All right, next up we've got the gradebook. Gradebook is where we can see, or we can pull some pretty cool stats specifically for the assessment, or if we have any activities. So this particular course has only got a final assessment. It all gets tracked automatically. So let's say, for example, I just want to pull some general stats on my assessment to see if people are struggling anywhere. So here I can have a look and I can see for my first question, 100% of all the learners who have done this question have passed it. I've got 100% pass mark. So that's pretty good. That looks like so far everybody seems to be understanding this section of the content. But if I have a look at the matching the column section, this is a little bit of a worry, because here none of my learners have passed this section or passed this question, sorry. Now, that's a bit of a worry for me. So now I've got to say, okay, let me have a look at maybe that section of the course and see, do I need to expand on it or explain something, or do I need to add maybe a branching scenario activity, something that's going to allow the learners to understand this a little bit better. Maybe I've worded the question a little bit wrong, or it's a bit ambiguous, and maybe I need to just tweak the assessment itself. That's important information that's going to help you to obviously improve your course for future learners completing it. And then, of course, here in the gradebook itself, we'll have a list of all learners who are on this particular course. We can see who has submitted and who hasn't submitted, what their scores are, and we can obviously go and have a look at their particular answers as well. So if I go show answer, I'll be able to see, yep, got this one correct, got this one correct, got this one correct. Fantastic. Okay, so that's the gradebook. And we've also got access then to a newsletter. And this is where me as a facilitator can keep in communication with my learners as well. So for example, if I have a general newsletter saying, listen guys, there's a piece of legislation has changed and we've swapped out module 5, for example, because that legislation has just come in 2 weeks ago, we can send a newsletter to all of our learners notifying that. If we wanted to maybe only speak to a couple of learners on the course. For example, we've pulled a usage report and we can see there's 2 learners who haven't even logged into the course and we're like a week in. We can then send them a little newsletter to see, we've seen you haven't logged into the course. How can we help you? Are you struggling? What can we do for you? And it works pretty simple off a WYSIWYG interface. So you'd put a subject, you'd put you write your email out. You can add media, smiley faces, format accordingly. It's a WYSIWYG interface, meaning what you see is what you get. I can upload any attachments, and what we can then do is we can send it as an email, and again, it'll pull up all of the learners that we have on this particular course. We can either decide to select and send it to everybody if it's a universal newsletter, or like I said, if it's 1 or 2 individuals we're worried about, we can just sort of cherry pick who we want to send the newsletter to, and we'll send that off. So pretty cool functionality there. So that's some of the functionalities in the facilitator area that you can do on a day-to-day basis. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to jump to the back end where all the magic happens, the super admin panel, and I'll show you a lot of it. Now, the system has a lot of functionality here, but don't get overwhelmed, remembering that one of our differentiators as a company is that we will sit with you to learn a little bit about your company and how you do things and how you roll out your training, and we will then help you to set up your system. So that means we'll help you to create your org structure or your grouping structure where you want all your learners to sit. We'll help to automate your system if you have any existing, say for example, if you have an HR or payroll system and you want to have your learner list automatically updated so that it's exactly the same between 2 systems, we'll help you do that. If you need reporting information to get automatically sent through, we'll help you with that. And once we've done the initial setup and you're happy with that, we'll sit down with your administrators and we'll train them on how to do the day-to-day stuff within the system. But also noting that once you've gone live, you still have access to our support team. So if you get stuck, and we understand that with a new system, the first couple of months there's going to be a bit more hand-holding. You obviously always have your LearnTech support team that can help you on a day-to-day basis. Similarly, if one of your administrators leaves the company and now you've got a new person, you need to train them up, you give our support team a call and we'll help them and get them started, and we'll start that process again. So one of the things to remember is that while a lot of the functionality I've shown you today is quite overwhelming in terms of, wow, I've got to set all of this up, rest assured that we will do most of that for you. We'll hand over a system to you that you can immediately start using from day one. So you don't have to worry about setting this up and getting overwhelmed. We'll help you with that. All right, so the areas that you're really going to focus on, we got user management. That's where all of my users, all my learners and my admins will sit. I've got course management, where my courses will sit, and we want to worry about reporting. So first up, if I go into user management, we can see our grouping structure within the company. Now, we'll consult with you to see how you group your learners and how much automation you require, because the amount of automation required means the level in which we're going to have to drill down your grouping structure. So for example, if we had different course catalogs for different departments in our company, we would at least need to have a department org structure. Okay. If we needed to have custom catalogs for different roles, we need to go down to job title, for example. So in terms of the grouping structure, it's just where we're sitting your learners. So this is quite a flat one. We've got our department, which is finance, and we go down then to our job role, which is a bookkeeper or accountant, for example. And this one, let's say we go into our sales department and we want to have a look at our sales reps or our sales managers. That's where our learners. If we want to look at our sales department, I have sales reps and I have sales managers. It just helps us to find where our learners are. And we can then do sort of automations as well. In terms of reporting, if we need to then report on a specific department, we can just select that department for the, say, the finance department, and it'll give us a report for all roles within the finance department. Or if we needed to generate a report for all sales reps, for example, we can really drill down that reporting. We can also create custom catalogs. So when a learner logs in who's a sales rep, they have a completely different catalog from someone in the finance department because they have different requirements. And that also helps you in terms of the compliance stuff. So, sales reps may have different compliance courses from people in the finance department that may not necessarily be relevant. So, if your sales reps, for example, don't need to do a FICA course, then we can customize it so that they don't see it and only the relevant people would see those type of courses. And it also allows us to do automations as well. So let's say, for example, the course that we looked at today was a sales induction. Let's say I wanted to set an automation so that all of my sales reps have to do that sales induction, and every sales rep in the future must automatically do the sales induction. I don't want to, as an administrator, have to keep saying, have we got any new sales reps? Let me remember to register them to the course, because I've got other things to do as well. So what I'm going to do now is let's quickly set up an auto enrollment rule that's going to take care of that for us. So I'm going to go here to the enrollment rule. I haven't got any set up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to call it sales induction rule. And I'm going to relate this to the organization chart. Okay. And I'm going to say what organization chart, and let's say sales. I'm going to say sales and descendants. So that means everybody in my sales department, sales managers, sales reps, marketing, whoever goes into my sales department, must do this course. They're going to automatically get registered to this course. Everyone in there now will get registered, and everyone in future forevermore, once I've set this rule up, will automatically get registered to that course. Okay, and so our sales department and the descendants has been selected. I'm now going to select the course. It's going to bring up my course catalog, and I want to go to my onboarding and my sales induction. And that's it. That's it. It's done. So what we've done now is we've created an automation. So everybody in the sales department now is going to get an email saying you've been registered onto the sales induction. But let's say now at the end of the month now we hire another 10 new salespeople. So these new salespeople, they get placed onto your HR system. We have then an integration with your HR system. So that means the moment they get placed on the HR system, they get pulled into the learner management system. The LMS will say, well, what is their job title? These are sales reps, so I'm going to place them into this group here. And we've now set up an automation that'll kick in saying, we've got 10 new people in the sales reps group. Let's automatically register them to this sales induction course. And the email will fire off saying, welcome to the system. You've been registered this course or a set of course. So this is great for things like induction or compliance training or any of that sort of stuff that every new learner will have to do because it's going to save you a heck of a lot of time on an admin side. You don't have to keep looking for new learners and registering them. The system will take care of all of that. And we can also automate reports as well, which I'll show you now, which is quite interesting. All right, so that's sort of our grouping structure. We'll work with you to see what automations you require, and we'll help you to then set up your grouping structure to make it easy for you to find people, to report on people, and to set up these automations as you see fit. Next up is our courses. This is where all of our, as the name suggests, courses sit. And similarly, here we have our category, which has all of our different categories. So if I click on administrative skills, we have our administrative skills e-learning courses that are sitting there. If I go to my onboarding category, I have that sales induction, and I may have other inductions there as well. So the category just helps us find the type of course. And obviously here we can see the course itself, how many students we have on the course. If we needed an administrator to approve a subscription, we could see how many people are waiting for that approval. I can go ahead now and register learners on the course manually if I like. I can link this to a certificate in the system. I can view any certificates that have been downloaded and generated. I can edit the menu. Remember we spoke about custom menus. I can edit the course or delete the course. Just don't delete the course. Okay, so that's where our courses sit. We can also create curriculums or learning paths as well, which would be courses that needed to be completed in a specific order as well. We can create custom catalogs for different learner groups as well, but obviously we would sit with you and we would help you set all of that up. So if you wanted your sales rep to log in and have a different selection of courses from a sales manager, you would then set up custom catalogs for each of those user groups, which also helps with the automation. Next up, let's have a look at reports. So we can see it's a fresh system. I haven't got any reports. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to build a report from scratch. And let's say we want to do, let's say on our sales induction course that we've created, we've now got an automation. So we know that from forevermore, from now, every time a new salesperson joins that department, they'll get the course. But let's say that the head of sales wants to have the most up-to-date version of a report on that sales induction. And let's say he says, look, I need that on my desk Friday, 8 o'clock every single morning. I need that report on my desk. Now you've got to go into your calendar and you've got to book every 7 o'clock every Friday. You've got to come in, generate the report, and you've got to email that on. What we're going to do is we're going to automate that because Friday mornings is for coffee. All right, so I'm going to give my report a name. So let's call it Sales Induction Report. And now it's going to say, right, who do we want to report on? Do we want to report on an individual? So I could search for any individual in the system, but no, we want to do a report for everybody in my sales department. I could say only sales reps or only sales manager, but I'm going to say everybody in the sales department as well as the descendants. So that means anyone below the sales department. Then it's going to say, okay, well, what course would you like me to report on? All courses? Well, then what it would do was give you a report for every single course that the sales department has done. But we're specifically wanting to generate a report on the sales induction. Next up, it's going to ask us, what user fields do you need? So the system comes out of the box with first name, last name, email address. However, any additional field that you require for reporting purposes, you'll tell us up front in that first consultation. We'll ask you. It's not something you need to remember. We have our own list, and we'll get that and we'll customize that for you. So if you need to now be able to break up learners into cost codes, and we need to know telephone numbers or race or gender or any of those sort of fields that you would need for reporting purposes or to be able to filter, we will set those up for you. So those fields would all appear here, and you would just simply tick the fields that you would like to appear in the report. And let's see, what information would I like? All right, I'd like to know the date that they were subscribed or registered to the course, if they've completed it, the date of completion, the current status, and the statuses are started, meaning they've never opened it, in progress, they've opened but they haven't finished it, or completed, meaning they've finished it. I'd like to know their final score. If we have pre-assessments, maybe we would like to know their starting score as well, but I know there's only a final assessment for this particular course. Maybe the number of sessions, so we can see how many times it took them to finish this course and the total amount of time that they've spent. So that's my report. However, I never want to set that up again. I just want to have my sales induction report ready for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say save and show. So that's going to save this as a standard report, and it's going to show me the report. So here I can have a look and see all of my learners here. I can see that I've got 2 people who have completed it. I've got one guy here who completed it on the 25th of April, and they got 100 points. They did it in one session, took them 9 minutes and 2 seconds. Well done. We have another person here who completed it, got 50 out of 100, took one session, took 1 minute and 3 seconds. They flew through that, and we got 3 people here who haven't logged in at all. They're not getting a chocolate. In fact, I might now open up a newsletter and send them an email and say, hey guys, what's happening? We noticed you haven't logged into the system. From here, I can export it to Excel or HTML or however I require it, and I can send it on to the manager or the sales manager who wants that. If you have a BI tool like ClickView or Power BI or something like that, we can give you access into the database so that you can pull those reporting and you can create graphical interfaces and make the learning part of your larger sort of reporting cycle. We can definitely help you set that up as well. All right, so there's our report. If I now go back to my reports, we'll see I've got a standard report there. And if I wanted to get the most up-to-date version of this report, I can just click on View and it'll give me the most up-to-date. I won't have to select the course and the fields and the users and all of that. It remembers all of that stuff. You'll also notice here, public. That means if I want to make this course available to every super administrator on the system, I can just tick that, and that means all super admins can access it. If I don't tick that, only I can access that. So let's say, I would like we've got 3 on the team, for example, and if I'm sick and I need someone else to be able to go and generate this report, I'll make it public so that anyone with super admin access can access this particular report. But also remembering now that the sales manager wants this on his desk at 8 o'clock every single Friday morning, and I don't want to have to remember that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set an automation. So I'm going to go here to schedule. I'm going to click add, and I'm going to call this my sales induction report. Let's say we want it every week on a Friday at 8 o'clock in the morning. And you can see there's a couple of different rules here, but we know for our usage, 8 on a Friday will do. Now it's going to pull up every user within the system. So let's say I want it for myself, and let's say that this person here is our sales manager, for example. I'll just click save. So now we know that we have a sales induction report that's going to happen every week on a Friday at 8 o'clock in the morning, and it will email to 2 recipients, being myself as the super administrator as well as the sales manager. And that's done. So now in terms of my sales course, my sales induction course, I've created the course shell. That's all set up and that's running. I've created an automated rule that says that everybody in my sales department now and forevermore will automatically get registered on this course. And my sales manager is now going to get the most up-to-date version of this course in his inbox at 8 o'clock every Friday without any more work from me. I can now focus on setting up the next course for my learners. So there we have it. That is in a nutshell, the functionality from an e-learning perspective of our Phoenix Learner Management System. Obviously, we've got a lot more different types of functionality in terms of classroom management or competency management and skills gap analysis and all those wonderful things, but that's another hour. And if you need those requirements, please complete the form below. Get hold of me, Chris, or anyone on the team, and we can set up a discussion to talk about your specific needs and how we can customize Phoenix Learner Management System to work for you and your company. So thanks so much for visiting us today and watching the demo. Remember, feel free to contact us at any point in time should you have any queries or requests or require a quotation or some consultation. We're always available. Have a great day. Thanks for stopping by.